Welcome to the place where your pain isn't a weakness. It's a weapon sharpened in silence. Here, we don't perform for pity or shout for validation. We move with intention, speak with purpose, and heal without applause. This channel is for the ones who've been through the fire, but walk like they're made of it. For the ones who have suffered in silence, grown in isolation, and still show up with strength that doesn't need to be explained. Every message you hear here is built on truth, shaped by real struggle, and spoken with respect for every scar you carry. If you've ever felt misunderstood, unseen, or alone in your pain, you've found your people. This isn't for everyone, but if you know what it means to bleed and still rise, your home, this is where the silent warriors come to remember who they are. You keep trying to make people understand your pain, like if they could just see what you've been through, they'd treat you differently, respect you more, maybe even walk with you through the storm. But let me tell you something that'll save you a lot of heartache. Not everyone is meant to carry your cross. There are some weights in life that were designed specifically for your shoulders. Some battles, some burdens, some silent nights. Those were custom, made for you. You keep handing pieces of your story to people who were never meant to hold it, and then you wonder why they drop it, why they mishandle it, why they don't see its value. They weren't built for it. They weren't called to understand it. See, when people haven't walked where you've walked, they'll look at your wounds and call them weak. They'll call your silence arrogance. They'll say you're cold, distant, bitter, because they've never had to survive what you had to survive in silence. They judge what they've never endured. They want the summary of your struggle without living a chapter of it, and it's not always from a place of cruelty. Sometimes it's just human limitation. Some people can't fathom a pain that deep because they've never had to reach that far inside themselves. They've never had to cry quietly in a room full of people and pretend like everything was fine. They've never had to pray with clenched teeth and no hope. So when you tell them what you've been through, it sounds like fiction. It sounds exaggerated because their life has never burned like that. Their peace has never been shaken that hard, but that doesn't make your pain less real. It just means it's not for them. We live in a world that tells us to share everything, every feeling, every detail, every scar. But wisdom teaches you that some things are holy, some things are sacred, and you don't throw sacred things in front of people who won't treat them as such. You don't pour out your soul to someone who only wants to sip your story like entertainment. You gotta stop trying to explain yourself to people who have no intention of understanding you. If their heart isn't built for compassion, they'll twist your vulnerability into ammunition. And before you know it, your pain becomes gossip at somebody else's table. There's power in knowing when to be silent. There's strength in carrying what was meant for you and not asking anyone to carry it for you. The people who are meant to walk with you, they won't need an explanation. They'll feel your pain without you having to speak it. They'll know when your smile is fake, when your energy is off, when your "I'm fine" is really "I'm hanging on by a thread." Those people are rare. But when you find them, you won't need to convince them of your worth or your wounds. But don't waste your voice explaining your pain to the wrong ears. Pain has a purpose. It didn't come to crush you. It came to teach you. It came to build something inside you that couldn't be built any other way. And sometimes the only way to honor that pain is to carry it with dignity, not display it for validation. Stop searching for empathy in empty places. Stop begging people to feel what they were never meant to understand. Some people were only meant to watch your journey from a distance, not walk it with you, and that's okay. Let them watch, let them doubt. Let them question, but don't let their lack of understanding make you question your strength. Because here's the truth, the cross you carry might be heavy, but it's shaping you into someone unbreakable. And not everyone is called to walk that kind of path. Not everyone is chosen to rise from that kind of pain. So stop explaining your pain to everyone. Just keep walking. Your pain is sacred, and I need you to hear that, not just in your ears, but in your spirit. It's not something cheap. It's not something ordinary. It's not something to pass around just because someone asks, just because someone's curious, or just because you're hoping to be seen. Pain, real pain, the kind that leaves you different, the kind that changes your walk, your tone, your faith. That kind of pain is holy. You don't hand that out like loose change. See, when something is sacred, it means it has meaning. It has depth. It's been through fire. And you wouldn't throw gold on the street and let anyone pick it up and walk off with it, would you? No, you protect what's valuable. You guard what matters. Your pain may have come from the hardest season of your life, but it gave you something that can't be taught in comfort. It gave you resilience. It gave you wisdom. It gave you perspective. And because of that, it's not for everybody. But here's the thing. We get lonely. We get tired of carrying it alone. So we start sharing our story with people who haven't earned it. People who want to hear the headlines of your hurt, but not the lessons in your healing. They want to know what happened to you so they can compare it to their own drama, not because they care. They want access to your vulnerability without offering any safety for it. And what ends up happening? You leave the conversation feeling more exposed than understood, more judged than supported, because you gave something precious to someone careless. You gotta understand, not every ear deserves your story. What broke you shaped you, and the shaping, that took time, that took late nights, silent prayers, lonely mornings, and a strength you didn't even know you had. That journey, that was sacred ground. Don't invite people onto it who treat it like a tourist stop. That story is for those who can sit with you in the silence, who don't need the full picture to believe your pain was real. It's for those who listen with their heart, not their ego. It's for those who have earned the right to hear it. Stop giving full access to people who only give you fragments of themselves. Stop bleeding in front of those who would never bandage your wounds. There are people who will hear your story just to repeat it. There are people who will take your pain and turn it into their entertainment, and there are people who will look you in the face and still never see you. Protect your story from those people, and it's not about bitterness. It's not about building walls. It's about discernment, knowing who is safe, knowing who is real, knowing when to speak and when to let silence speak for you. Let your story be a reward, not a giveaway. Let it be something people earn by showing up for you, by standing with you, by proving that they're not just passing through. Because the ones who deserve to hear your truth, they won't ask for the details. They'll feel the weight behind your smile. They'll recognize the strength in your quiet, and they'll honor the pain without needing to poke it. The world teaches us to overshare, to prove ourselves, to be transparent, even when it costs us our peace. But I'm telling you, your peace is priceless, your journey is valuable, and your pain, that sacred pain, is not a public performance. You didn't go through what you went through to become content for someone's curiosity. You came through it to become something stronger, something wiser, something deeper, and not everyone deserves a seat in that audience. So the next time you feel tempted to explain your story to someone who hasn't earned the right to hear it, pause. Ask yourself, what are they going to do with it? Will they hold it gently, or will they drop it like it's nothing? Will they cover you, or will they leave you even more exposed? Because what broke you shaped you. And that kind of shaping deserves reverence. Protect your peace, honor your pain, and remember, that story you carry, it's not for every ear. Silence isn't weakness. Don't let this loud world fool you into thinking the only strength that matters is the kind that roars. Real strength, real power is often quiet, it's steady, it's under control. When you suffer in silence, you don't become soft. You become sharp. You don't become invisible. You become focused. See, anybody can shout when they're angry. Anybody can cry out when they're in pain. But it takes discipline to sit with the weight and not let it crush you. It takes strength to bleed and still walk upright. We live in a world where everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to post it, say it, show it, prove it, but strength doesn't need a stage. Strength shows up in the dark, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when it's just you, your pain, and your purpose. That's where the real fight is, and that's where the real winners are made. When you suffer in silence, you learn something most people miss. You learn how to endure. You learn how to keep moving without validation. You learn how to wipe your own tears and still hold your head high. You learn that applause doesn't heal wounds, it only distracts from them. And when the noise dies down, when the crowd goes home, you're left with one question: did I grow in the silence? Or did I just perform in the noise? Because silence isn't passive, it's powerful. It's where self-control is born. It's where wisdom matures. It's where your next move is prepared. When you stop reacting to everything and start reflecting in silence, you begin to understand what matters and what doesn't. You begin to see who you are, stripped of applause, stripped of opinions, stripped of distractions. And that version of you, that's the version that doesn't break easy. People think silence means you've got nothing to say. No, silence means you've said enough. Silence means you're building. Silence means you're healing. And not every battle requires your voice. Some victories come in silence, not because you didn't fight, but because you chose not to waste your energy proving yourself to people who were never listening to begin with. You gotta know the difference between silence that weakens and silence that strengthens. One is born out of fear, the other out of confidence. When you're silent because you're afraid, you shrink. But when you're silent because you're focused, you rise. It's in that kind of silence where you stop reacting to pain like it's the enemy and start treating it like the teacher. That's when growth happens. There's something powerful about knowing you could say something, but you don't. You could clap back, but you stay still. You could expose the truth, but you wait. That's strength under control. That's mastery of self. And the people who get there, they don't just survive storms, they command them. You don't need everyone to understand your silence. It's not for them, it's for you. It's the space where you process, where you listen to God, where you recalibrate. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will come in moments where nobody sees you. Nobody knows what you're battling. Nobody even thinks you're struggling, but you're in the fire and still refusing to make a sound. You see, the ones who suffer in silence, they carry something different. They walk with a kind of grace that can't be faked. They don't need to shout to be respected. They don't need to scream to be seen, because they've learned what you build in silence becomes louder than anything you could ever say with your mouth. And when it's time, when the season shifts, the world won't be able to ignore the strength that came out of your silence, not because you asked for their attention, but because silence did something applause never could. It prepared you for the weight of purpose. So don't mistake your quiet season for weakness. Don't let the stillness convince you you're stuck. You're not. You're just being sharpened, refined, strengthened, because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who knows when to speak and when to be silent. Stop wasting your voice on people who won't value your scars. You keep trying to explain where you've been, what you've been through, what it took to still be standing, hoping they'll understand, hoping they'll care. But some people were never meant to carry your story. They'll look at your scars and see drama, not strength. They'll hear your truth and offer pity or judgment, but never support. And you need to know the difference. Because your voice, your experience, your scars, they're too valuable to be wasted on people who only want to observe your pain, not honor it. See, your scars tell a story of survival, a story of battles fought in silence, a story of nights when you didn't think you'd make it, but somehow you did. Those marks on your spirit, those heal. Those wounds on your heart, they're proof that what was meant to break you didn't win. But when you show those scars to the wrong people, they won't see resilience. They'll see weakness, they'll see an opening. They'll either mock what they don't understand or pity what they'll never carry. And both responses will drain you. You don't owe anyone your full story. You don't need to keep opening yourself up to people who clap when you're laughing, but disappear when you're bleeding. They were never in it for the truth. They were in it for the show. And the moment you stop performing, the moment you get real, they don't know what to do with you. That's why you've got to protect your scars. They're sacred. They're personal. They're the evidence of your becoming. The people who value your scars, they're not looking to poke at them. They're not asking for details so they can turn your pain into gossip. They're the ones who don't need the full story to stand beside you. The ones who offer you a hand instead of a microphone. The ones who say, "I see you," and not explain yourself. Those are the people you build with. Those are the ones you walk with. But the others, let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them form opinions based on fragments. You don't need to convince them of anything. You don't need to hand over your truth just to be accepted, because the moment you start doing that, you're giving your voice to people who can't even hear you. And what's the point of speaking truth to ears that were never open? Let your actions do the talking. Let your growth, your healing, your peace speak louder than anything you could ever say. People may not know what you've been through, but they'll see what you've become. That's the real testimony, not the pain but the power, not the wounds but the wisdom. You don't have to announce your strength. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, in the way you respond to things that used to shake you, in the way you love, lead, and live with purpose. You've spent too much time explaining your journey to people who were never meant to walk it with you. Let that be the last time. Let your silence be a filter. Let your consistency be the evidence, because your healing isn't for show, it's for freedom, and not everyone deserves a front row seat to that. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to break yourself open to be seen. The people who matter will feel your presence, even when you say nothing, and the ones who don't, they were never listening in the first place. So stop wasting your voice. Stop giving your story to those who treat it like a side note. You've come too far to explain yourself to people who only want a version of you they can handle. And your scars, they're not for entertainment. They're for remembrance, remembrance of who you used to be and how far you've come. Let them wonder, let them guess, but don't hand them the truth if they haven't earned the right to hold it. Let your life speak louder than your words ever could. The ones who truly get it don't need an explanation. You ever meet somebody who just knows? They don't need all the backstory. They don't need the timeline. They don't need to hear every detail of your pain to understand the weight you're carrying. They feel you, even in your silence. That's because they've been there. They've bled like you. They've fought battles no one saw and walked through fire with nobody clapping. And when someone's walked through their own storm, they don't need to question the look in your eyes when you're trying to hold it all together. They just know, and sometimes that's more than enough. You don't need to explain yourself to people who live in the same depth you've had to survive. They don't ask you to prove your pain. They don't demand your history like it's evidence. They recognize your strength without needing to see your scars, because they've lived in silence too. They've had to be strong when they wanted to fall apart. They've had to wear smiles in rooms where they were dying inside. So when they see you doing the same, they don't question it. They connect with it. You've probably spent so much of your life trying to be understood, trying to explain why you are the way you are, why you move the way you do, why you don't trust easy, why you laugh less now, speak less, share less. But the truth is, the ones who truly understand, they don't ask you to explain those things. They sense them. They honor them. They see the depth behind your distance, and instead of pushing, they offer peace. That's real connection. That's real empathy, and it doesn't come from words. It comes from experience. Not everybody is built to get you. And that's okay. Stop exhausting yourself trying to translate your soul into a language someone else can understand. Some people will never get it, not because you're too complicated, but because they've never had to live in a place that deep. They've never had to survive what you did, So they'll minimize your pain, misinterpret your strength, and misunderstand your silence. And no matter how much you explain, they'll still see a version of you that fits their comfort, not your truth. But the ones who've been through it, the ones who have cried the same tears, held the same prayers, walked the same lonely road, they don't need to hear the whole story. They hear it in your energy. They hear it in your stillness. They hear it in the way you say, "I'm good," but your eyes say something else. Those people don't try to fix you or rush your process. They just sit with you in it. They're not loud, but they are present. And presence, when it's real, speaks louder than any explanation ever could. We spend too much time trying to be understood by people who don't have the emotional capacity to receive us. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of the peace that comes from being seen without having to perform. You don't need an audience. You need alignment. You need connection. You need that quiet kind of understanding that doesn't demand anything from you but allows you to just be. So protect your energy. Protect your story. You don't have to break yourself open for people who wouldn't even know what to do with your truth. Save your voice for those who already hear you without words. And when you find those people, the ones who sit in the silence with you, the ones who nod without you having to say a word, hold on to them because they are rare. They don't come to fix, they come to feel. They don't come to question, they come to carry. They don't need your pain to make sense. They already know what it took for you to survive it, and that's enough. Pain isn't for performance, it's for preparation. But we live in a world where everybody wants to turn their struggle into a show. We've been taught to wear our wounds like costumes, post our heartbreaks like headlines, and make our pain something people applaud. But that's not what pain is for. Pain was never meant to be put on display to impress others. It was meant to shape you, grow you, prepare you. You weren't called to stand on a stage with your scars just to prove how strong you are. You were called to learn something through those scars that can't be taught in comfort. You weren't meant to impress the world with your wounds. You were meant to rise with wisdom, to carry what you've learned. To walk differently, to speak with clarity, to lead with compassion, to live with purpose. See, performance feeds the ego, but preparation feeds the soul. And sometimes we confuse the two. We get caught up in showing people how much we've been through, hoping they'll clap, hoping they'll admire the fight. But pain was never about their applause. Pain was about your evolution. It came to expose the parts of you that were weak. It came to strip the pride, to break the noise, to bring you face to face with yourself. That dark season you went through, it didn't come to make you famous. It came to make you real. It came to build something in you that no platform can offer. Something deeper, something permanent. But if you're too busy trying to perform it, trying to narrate your way through the storm for approval, you'll miss the very lesson it came to teach you. Some of the most powerful growth happens when nobody's watching. When the lights are off and it's just you and the weight of what you're carrying, that's where character is built. That's where integrity is formed. That's where you learn patience. That's where you learn gratitude. That's where you stop needing people to see your pain and you start asking, what is this pain preparing me for? Because when you go through something real, you come out different. Not louder, not more dramatic. But deeper, quieter, stronger, wiser. You walk with a kind of peace that doesn't need to be announced. You lead with a kind of strength that doesn't need to be proved. That's what pain is supposed to do. That's what it was preparing you for. The world loves a good story. They love a comeback. But don't confuse their curiosity with care. Don't share your pain for likes or attention. That cheapens what you survived. That reduces your battle to a moment of entertainment, and your survival is worth more than that. Your growth is worth more than that. You went through too much to turn it into a show. This wasn't for them. This was for you. This was for the next level of your life. This was for your calling. This was so you could speak from a place of experience, not just inspiration. So you could carry others, not just impress them. Because when you've been prepared by pain, you move differently. You're not hungry for attention. You're focused on assignment. You're not living to prove yourself. You're living to pour out what you've learned. And that wisdom, that's what makes the pain worth it. Not the applause, not the performance, but the preparation. So stop trying to turn your struggle into a stage. Let it be a classroom. Let it teach you. Let it humble you. Let it stretch you. And when the time is right, when you've been refined and not just bruised, then speak, then share, then lead, not to impress, but to impact. You weren't meant to perform. You were meant to rise. If something in this message spoke to you, hold on to it. Let it work in your silence. Don't rush to share it. Let it shape you first. And if you felt seen, if you felt understood, if you felt stronger just by being here, go ahead and like this video, because that's your way of saying, I'm not alone. Subscribe so you never miss a message made for warriors like you, those who walk quietly but carry power that can't be explained. And share it with someone who's been carrying their pain in silence, because they don't need noise, they need truth. We don't perform here, we prepare, we rise. Until next time, keep walking with strength under control.